The Chromebook market makes billions of dollars annually, and they've been selling successfully for 15 years. But when Google tried to make their own Chromebook in an ecosystem that they themselves designed, they flopped and only garnered less than 1% of market share. But why? Hey everyone, how are you all doing? If you're new here, welcome. My name is Krazy Ken, and today we will discuss this beautiful Chromebook Pixel and the products that followed after it. But, as you may know, this wasn't Google's first Chrome product. So, to see how we got here, we must go back to the original Chrome. The first version of the Google Chrome web browser launched in December 2008. Internally, at Google, Chrome was merely a code name at first, but they stuck with it.
It's kind of an ironic name for our product. How do we minimize Chrome? We used to call it content, not Chrome. That's what we should focus on.
Fast forwarding, Chrome went on to dethrone the once ubiquitous and dominant Internet Explorer. And today, Chrome is the most used web browser in the world, garnering 77% market share. Google clearly had a hit. So in 2009, since this web browser was gaining traction, Google thought, can we do more with Chrome than just making a web browser? So they started developing a Linux-based, web-focused operating system named Google ChromeOS, later shortened to ChromeOS. And in order to test ChromeOS properly, they had to get it into the hands of many people. But they didn't just throw out ISO files to a bunch of people on the internet. They went a step further. They announced a pilot program on December 7th, 2010, and this program distributed 60,000 Chrome laptop prototypes to participants, and it was named CR48, aka Mario. This Chrome laptop pilot program evolved into the Chromebook, and at Google I/O on May 11th, 2011, the first Acer and Samsung Chromebooks were announced, and they went on sale the following month. These Chromebooks ran ChromeOS and were designed to boot up and get online fast while staying secure with built-in security features. And the starting price was very affordable for a laptop, just $349. And Acer and Samsung were just the beginning. Other manufacturers would go on to make their own Chromebooks too, like HP and Lenovo. By November, some of the press was already calling the Chromebook a flop, but I think their opinions were a little premature. Google was in it for the long game. They had a bit more of a strategy here. We just had to wait for it to play out. And throughout 2012, sales of Chromebooks surged to 400,000 units. Chromebooks were gaining traction, and Google continued providing the OS, the brand, and the ecosystem for all of these types of Chromebooks out in the world. But one thing Google did not do was make their own Chromebook hardware. I'm a huge believer in Alan Kay when he said people who are really serious about software should make their own hardware. It's been Apple's approach almost since the beginning of their company, and at this point in time, Microsoft just released their first PC too, the Surface. And Google was coming up next. On February 21st, 2013, Google announced their first Chromebook hardware product, the Chromebook Pixel. And it wasn't like any other existing Chromebook. In fact, it was positioned as the flagship premium Chromebook. Ooh, that sounds pretty cool. So, in that case, let's see what this bad boy can do. Or girl. I don't know the gender of these things. From the beginning, I have always liked the design of the Chromebook Pixel, and the more I used it in person, the more I liked it. Unibody chassis, anodized dark gray aluminum, smooth surfaces, it just feels premium. The chassis is 0.64 inches thick, and it has a blocky appearance, which I don't mind, but there's also some subtle roundness thrown into the mix. It helps balance the feng shui, if you will. Google really paid attention to the small details here. They used a lot of one-off custom components too. Even the hinge itself acts as a heatsink, and the air vents are hidden underneath. And as a Mac user, that finger scoop makes me feel right at home. But my favorite part is the light bar. It lights up in colors that match Google's logo. Now let's take a look at that screen. It's a 12.85-inch display with a 2560 by 1700 resolution, which results in 239 pixels per inch. That's 4.3 million pixels. And it's also a multi-touch display covered with Corning Gorilla Glass. Wow, that's pretty cool. This is gonna be an expensive Chromebook, isn't it? What intrigued me was the 3:2 aspect ratio. It was designed this way to allow for more vertical space, which is nice for web browsing. But as a photographer, I found this ratio a perfect fit because that's a standard aspect ratio for many cameras. Circling back on something really quick, why a touchscreen? Well, Google said this could help pave the way for future ChromeOS tablets, which would then compete with their Android operating system, which already exists on tablets. I don't see the vision here, but hey, I'm not the multi-billion-dollar company. There's also a 720p webcam, hidden stereo speakers, backlit keyboard, glass trackpad, and triple mic setup, one of which is a keyboard mic to help cancel out typing noise. Speaking of the keyboard, the top row is a unique set of function keys that are specific to the Chromebook ecosystem. And the shortcuts are nice: forward, back, full screen, app switcher, etc. And finally, of course, you can plug things into this laptop. Here's the ports. Get a good look at those. Overall, I really like this design. There's only two things that I don't like. The first thing is this top row of keys. They feel different than the rest of the keys and they have a bit more resistance to them. So it just kind of feels weird when you're using the normal keys and then have to press these more stiff function keys. And two, although the screen looks great, it is way too reflective. There's no anti-glare. At least there's none that I can see. Now, let's take a look at the inside. Wait, this is Michael MJD's laptop, so I probably shouldn't cut it open without planning an alibi first. The Chromebook Pixel is powered by a dual-core Intel Core i5 Ivy Bridge processor, clocked at 1.8 GHz with integrated Intel HD 4000 graphics. There's also 4 GB of RAM and 32 GB of solid-state storage, and each Chromebook Pixel came with 1 TB of Google Drive cloud storage for 3 years. And the battery lasts up to 5 hours with continuous active use. And all of this can be yours for $1,299. That's got to be a typo. Okay, so this is a lot of money for a Chromebook. Heck, I remember having a problem with the price 13 years ago when I first covered this product on my live show.
You could get a lot more with $1,300. What is this company thinking?
It's too expensive. But here's something I didn't know back then. I actually just learned this recently. The high price was intentional. Sundar Pichai, who was the SVP of engineering in charge of Chrome at the time and is the present-day CEO of Google, said they didn't want to be too commercial with this product. He said, "Our goal is to get it in the hands of developers so they can build amazing applications. We wanted to give power users a way they can live on Chromebooks." Well, if that's truly the case, I feel like they should have mentioned that in the marketing materials, but they didn't. Okay, maybe it'll work? We'll find out soon, but first, let's talk tools. If you've seen my shows before, you probably know there's some tinkering involved, and tools like the Fantic S2 Pro Max electric screwdriver make it easy. This screwdriver features 7 levels of torque and a 250 RPM motor, and it comes with a 90-degree adapter for those tight spaces. Plus, the LEDs look really cool on this thing, but they also serve a purpose. The ring light lets you see in dark spaces, and the energy bar shows you how much torque you're using. The S2 Pro Max also comes with 16 bits, which magnetically attach to the case like that. Pretty handy. And when you're done, that clicks in there, this clicks in like that, and it all fits together nicely. And when you're ready to go, just pop it back out. Fantic also offers the B11 Mix Pro. This is the world's first 2-in-1 air duster and fan, which is a nice attachment for those hot days, especially when those air conditioner scams just don't want to work. Gee, I wonder why. The B11 Mix Pro is a super powerful air duster with a 130,000 RPM motor. Well, let's just see how powerful this thing is. Yeah, that packs a punch. And frankly, I would prefer to use something like this as opposed to buying these one-use cans of compressed air all the time because, well, let's just be honest, these are not really good for the environment. The B11 Mix Pro also comes with 4 brushes and 4 nozzles. Great for inflating my giant ball. And the cherry on top, this air duster also functions as a power bank. So, here's how to get your own Fantic tools. Get your own S2 Pro Max electric screwdriver and B11 Mix Pro electric air duster and fan with the links in the description. Have fun. Now let's take a look at the Chromebook Pixel software. I don't know the exact version of ChromeOS the Chromebook Pixel originally shipped with, but given the date, it must have been around version 24. Visually, the OS looks a bit different from today, but what hasn't changed is the main focus, the web. Most of the applications in ChromeOS run in a web browser window, so this is definitely not an OS for offline use, but that's kind of the idea. There are some apps that have offline functionality, but you're still not going to be using those big, intensive native apps for things like CAD and 3D animating, video editing, Photoshop. You're not going to be doing stuff like that, for the most part, with ChromeOS. A lot of those big industry standard apps don't even run on this system. There's also a file browser, but it's pretty basic. As for the main web browser, Chrome, as you may have guessed, it's similar to what you get on macOS and Windows, but I've seen reviews say it's actually more stable than the other OSs.
It's the most stable browser I've ever used by far, and almost never lags or crashes. I wish Chrome was this good on Windows or OS X.
For the Pixel I have, it's running a present-day version of ChromeOS, version 149. Specifically, it's ChromeOS Flex, which is a slightly different version of ChromeOS that is tailored for existing computers that aren't Chromebooks. It's also worth mentioning Chromebooks, in general, not just the Pixel, have a developer mode, so you can install Linux distros and Windows Crap Edition. Wait, this can't be a real thing, right? Why is that even in my script? But speaking of Windows, you can actually install Windows 10 on this Chromebook Pixel model, should you choose to. And lastly, if you want to run Linux software side by side with ChromeOS, there is a setting which enables a Debian virtual machine. So, Mr. Chromebook Pixel, you have now launched into the world. The question is, what did people think of you? Oh, what a shock! The big criticism was the price. Don't get me wrong, I understand there was a lot of care put into this design, and it is packed with features, but in my opinion, the Chromebook brand is not associated with luxury. Chromebooks, back then and today, are usually cheaper laptop options, which are especially used in schools, because, as we know, schools usually don't have a lot of budget. And for typical Chromebooks, this is 100% okay. They fulfill their purpose. But for the Pixel, that price point is too high, especially when you factor in the software limitations of ChromeOS compared to Windows. Another criticism was the short battery life, and I agree, 5 hours is quite low compared to other laptops on the market from this time period. But what about the positives? The press praised the design and the attention to details and the display, and I agree, those are great aspects of this computer. So, it's not all bad. But the true measure of success is in the sales. So, how many Chromebook Pixels did Google sell? I have no idea. They didn't publish the numbers. I feel like if they did sell a lot, they would have said so. So I'm guessing they didn't sell too many. Here's the good news, though. This was their first try. Not everything works on the first try. Google still made a profit on each Pixel sale, and this product can still serve as a proof of concept, which can maybe raise the bar for other Chromebook makers. 2 years later, Google confirmed this proof of concept theory. Google exec Renee Naemi said the Chromebook Pixel was a development platform and a proof of concept. But she also teased something else. We do have a new Chromebook Pixel coming out. On March 11th, 2015, Google unveiled the next generation of Chromebook Pixel, and they called it Chromebook Pixel. Yeah, that's fine, a new name isn't necessary. The design is similar, but it's a smidge thinner at 0.6 inches, and the function keys are now regular keys like the rest of the keyboard. Good, I guess I wasn't the only one with that complaint. The CPU speed was also bumped up to 2.2 GHz, the graphics were updated to a 5500, and the RAM was doubled to 8 GB. But probably the biggest feature was USB-C. The 2015 Chromebook Pixel was one of the earliest devices to ship with USB-C, and this standard is still widely used today. Another huge improvement was the battery life. It now lasted up to 12 hours. And you get all of this for a new low price of $999. Okay, definitely an improvement, but there was also the Pixel LS. For $300 more, you get a faster 2.4 GHz i7 CPU, double the RAM, and double the storage. And I'm not joking when I say this. The LS stands for ludicrous speed. I wouldn't consider a 2.4 GHz dual-core i7 ludicrous speed, but maybe it is for a Chromebook. Generally speaking, the reception of this new Pixel was a little more positive. But the price and the ChromeOS limitations were still a big target of criticism. But Google was working to reduce some of these limitations, and perhaps that could help justify the price more. When this new Pixel launched, a small selection of Android apps were compatible with the OS, but Google had more up their sleeve. They started adding support for native Android apps from the Google Play Store. I was actually kind of surprised. It's not just some small or stretched out phone app. The demos I have seen actually use the screen pretty well. The problem is, this feature wasn't released through the stable ChromeOS channel until September 2016. 1.5 years after the new Pixel came out. And by that time, Google had already given up on the Chromebook Pixel. A few months earlier, on April 28, 2016, Google quietly discontinued the low-end 2015 Chromebook Pixel, but the LS model was still available for 4 months. After the LS was discontinued, Google had no plans to restock, marking the death of the Chromebook Pixel. For now. Like last time, Google did not report official sales figures for the new Pixel. The Motley Fool estimated a few tens of thousands of units at most, which seems like a reasonable estimate. In other words, about 0.2% market share. Despite the Chromebook Pixel failing, or flopping if you want to use a slightly less harsh word, Chromebooks as a whole actually are selling pretty successfully. 1.76 million Chromebooks were sold in 2013, and year over year, that number almost tripled in 2014. And by the time of the Chromebook Pixel's discontinuation, Chromebooks garnered 58% of the education market, making Google the largest provider of computers in schools. So maybe there was still hope for Google to make a new first-party laptop. On September 26, 2016, Android Police's David Ruddock published an article discussing a new codename inside Google, Bison. This Bison project was rumored to be an ultra-thin laptop with stylus support, and a new operating system codenamed Andromeda, which combines ChromeOS and Android capabilities into one system, and the laptop's price would start at $799. To the public, it was radio silence for the next 11 months. No new details surfaced, at least nothing major that I heard of. But on October 20th, 2016, Google did release something Pixel-related. But it wasn't a laptop. It was the first Pixel smartphone. The Pixel brand name worked its way into smartphones, and Google still sells Pixel phones today, so clearly that worked out. Heck, even a year earlier, the name worked its way into an Android tablet named Pixel C. Google is clearly liking the Pixel brand name. But what about the Chromebooks? On August 21st, 2017, Android Police reported that Google was, in fact, launching a new laptop, but it would still run ChromeOS, not the Andromeda hybrid system. However, it's unclear if this newly reported laptop project is Project Bison. For all we know, it could be something completely different. But we didn't have to rely on rumors for long. Because on October 4th, Google announced their new laptop, and they called it Chromebook Pixel. Just kidding, it's now Pixelbook. Interesting, they removed Chromebook out of the name entirely. I guess they just really wanted to indicate this is new. The Pixelbook featured an all-new design with a silver color and thinner chassis at just 0.41 inches. And when the lid is open, you can really get a sense of how thin this thing is. I absolutely love the way it looks. And here's another thing. This 12.3-inch display is on a 360-degree hinge, so I'm always very bad at flipping these things around. So you can flip it around and turn it into a tablet. Yes, Google was taking the two-in-one approach for the Pixelbook. After you fold it, the traditional desktop UI automatically transforms into a full-screen app launcher with a grid of icons. And for $99, you could get an optional Pixelbook pen, which I was delighted to see just works instantly, even with a newer version of ChromeOS. I tinkered with Sketchbook briefly, and this was the result of the first 60 seconds of me using this app. Yeah, I'm definitely not a professional character illustrator. The Pixelbook runs ChromeOS, but the system is compatible with Google Play Android apps out of the box. The Pixelbook started at $999, and the highest end config was $1699. And when it did start shipping, it received some positive reviews. I can tell Google is learning some things as they keep going here, but the price point was still the big target of criticism. I think you're starting to see a pattern here. In marketing, there's this concept called point of difference. The point of difference for a product is the key differentiator that makes it stand out among the competition. For typical Chromebooks, let's be honest, the hardware isn't anything very special. Yes, the optimizations for faster boot times are nice, and the hardware-backed security is also nice. But in the Chromebook ecosystem, those are standard features. They're not unique to the Pixel products. As for the software, ChromeOS primarily runs web apps, which can be run in any web browser or on any computer. There's no exclusivity. So if the hardware and the software aren't the key advantages, what is? It's the price, and it's only the price. When Chromebooks first came out, the prices started at $349, and today on Google's website, they sell for $799 all the way down to only $179. This low price makes Chromebooks accessible to people who really need a computer, especially in education. And through all of these Pixel releases, Google never got the price below $999. They never achieved that key point of difference, that key value proposition that sells the Chromebook, and in my opinion, that's why they never took off. Wait, hang on. I'm receiving word that Google is not ready to give up yet. And I will admit, their persistence is admirable. Before Google launched their next laptop, they released a ChromeOS tablet named Pixel Slate. But they only did this once.
This thing has made me so sad.
Other companies release their own ChromeOS tablets in the future, so I guess this whole let's put a touchscreen on a Chromebook concept actually worked out? Okay, fair enough. But Google had something else cooking. Almost 2 years after the original Pixelbook, on October 15th, 2019, Google announced a new Chromebook. They trashed the 2-in-1 concept, got rid of the pen, and enclosed this new device in a magnesium chassis with a matte finish, which I personally think feels better in the palm rest compared to that rubbery material. And they called it Pixelbook Go. Design-wise, it doesn't look as fancy as the previous laptops, but it is still very thin and light. And the corner radii are larger than the previous models, and that gets me excited. I'm very easy to impress. Google also ditched the 3:2 aspect ratio in favor of 16:9 and increased the screen size by 1 inch to 13.3 inches. And despite not supporting the pen, it still had touch support. They also lowered the resolution to 1920 by 1080, which equals 166 pixels per inch, which on paper is technically a downgrade from the previous models, but it still looks pretty good. Please, please be less than $999. Okay, I'm receiving the info. Got it. The Pixelbook Go started at $649. Holy shit! They did it! They actually did it! Of course, the only thing predictable about life is its unpredictability. Yeah, unfortunately, in September 2022, Google canceled future generations of Pixelbook as part of some cost-cutting measures, and they dissolved the entire team, transferring them to other parts of the company. But the Pixelbook Go seemed to be selling okay. The pricing was more competitive, so it had a better chance. In fact, it remained on sale for another 16 months after the dissolution, until Google delisted it from the Google Store on January 21st, 2024. Despite Google exiting the first-party Chromebook business, Chromebooks as a whole are still very successful today. In 2025, the global Chromebook market was $14.7 billion. Billion with a B. So it looks like Chromebooks will be fine. And I think that... Wait, what's happening? Wait, what? Oh, Googlebook? Okay, that's new. Yes, Googlebook will be a new category of laptops launching in fall of 2026, which, to use Google's own words, will be crafted with premium hardware and design. And the first companies making these laptops will be Acer, Asus, Dell, HP, and Lenovo. At this time, and maybe for the better, Google is not planning any first-party Googlebook products. The new operating system, Aluminum OS, on the surface looks like ChromeOS, but it now integrates with your Android phone for easy launching of Android apps directly on your laptop. Google's Gemini intelligence features are also built in system-wide. Visually, the preview designs appear to take inspiration from the earlier Chromebook Pixels, and I'm not sure how these designs and premium hardware will affect the price, so we'll have to wait and find out. But the pricing may not be an issue this time, because according to the FAQ, Chromebooks and Googlebooks will coexist. But will Googlebooks be able to garner substantial market share against Macs and Windows PCs, or will they just end up in the Google graveyard? Not to sound like a pessimist, but I think it will be the latter. I know we don't have the specs and the prices yet. Price will be a big determining factor. But all that stuff aside, what exactly is the value proposition here? Sure, the hardware looks nice, but the only other features Google shows off are some AI functionality and integration with Android. And they claim powerful performance, but powerful performance to do what exactly? I can't imagine there's going to be any big, intensive, industry-standard applications that run natively on Aluminum OS, but hey, it's still early. Over the years, Google has killed a lot of hardware products, but at least they're trying stuff. And the fact that they made laptops accessible at a lower price, especially in education, is pretty honorable, and hey, that's gotta be worth some praise, right? Thanks for sticking with me. Catch the Krazy and pass it on. What? Property of SpoofOS Incorporated. What the heck is that?